local currency deposits and extend local currency loans.
And they have plenty.
The licensing process is going to take time.
Yes, taking a pan of the room.
And so they are inherently at a disadvantage.
Does anyone need the restroom?
Have branches that number in the 10,000, stream across the country.
We're so confident that this will just run back home, never to come back to La Scala. And some singers now don't want to come to La Scala.
All right, Gunnar, don't waste a lot of
it does
battery.
have occasion.
Distributed by PRI, which is Public Radio International. It's a little bit different than NPR, but similar in some ways. So like I said, if you guys see, because we're on the air now with a couple shows coming up between now and noon that are being broadcast here in Boston and also around the country, some of the producers are scrambling to get last minute notes and whatever, so if you see them coming through the hallways, please just spend some time. We basically are run by donations from individuals and also other our form of advertising, which is underwriting, which I'll get to in a moment. But we're trying to create this sense of openness to the public. And right here on our main conference room, where decisions are being made at the top level of the organization, we have this window here, and you'll see it on the studio space. We have a window on the studio space, and you see it in the design where the reporters sit. Everything's very much open, and that's to kind of create this environment that's consistent with what public radio is. And what is public radio? Are you guys familiar with what public radio is? You guys know about PBS and everything on TV? Well, that's public television, and public radio is very similar. You know how there are no real commercials on PBS? Like during Sesame Street, it would just be Sesame Street is brought to you by you, our listener, and by XYZ company. And that'll just be cut and dry. It won't be like your fancy kind of, free.
If you pledge now, you get, something cool. Yeah, well, you can get. I'll ignore it. I will ignore it. But and then the same thing with all our letters are sent out, and then our newsletter, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of different things you work on.
So basically, you want to find what attracts people to your brand, and then basically explain that and include calls to action. One thing I've learned in my own emails to whoever it may be, I try and get volunteers in here from Chris, is that you got to have a call to action and you have to have it right away. So click here, go to that website, sign up now, sign up today. Those types of things are very important to get right out there and make sure that they're also consistently spaced throughout whatever marketing piece you might be doing. It's very important to have those calls to action. Right?
Definitely. And just overall, the shorter you can make something, the better. In all cases, don't write 10 words when you can write 2. So that's my advice in a nutshell.
And Chris, since he started here, has really improved the direct mail performance by being such an excellent writer. And right now, it looks like he's sending personal emails. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
And this non-real job that Ryan refers to is, he does a really successful job at it. On the table right there, we have our membership newsletter. Chris wrote all the copy for that. Ryan did all the design. It looks like it was done by a professional ad firm. I have a couple of those out there for you guys to take, basically. And you can see the kind of pretty pictures that Ryan's been working on. But Ryan, how are you going to get people to click on this banner and visit our membership site?
Well, this is actually more... This is actually part of the membership site, so they don't need to click on it. This is just once they get to the membership site, so reinforce what it means to be a WBOR member. So I can show you. These are all sort of the words that we use to describe ourselves in the current campaign. So we're just trying to reinforce it. And then this yellow block is that sort of. Oh, by the way, you need to write something. Okay. And so,
kind of aspects to this room that you wouldn't just necessarily notice at first glance. This room is basically designed by the same firm that designed the NPR studios in Washington. They're named, called the Russberger Design Firm. It was designed in 1996, but it remains very much state-of-the-art. The acoustic engineering of this room is set up to make a sound that, again, is consistent with public radio. So it's conversational, it's polite, it's cordial. So you have people who might be on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC yelling at each other, almost at each other's throats because they're on those stations. But when they come on public radio and they're sitting in a studio like this, it's going to be very polite. It's going to be very calm, cool, and collected. And that's kind of the hallmark of what public radio is. And the studio space is designed to create that sort of vibe. what you get here is a sound that sounds like people are sitting across the table. For instance, when Robin Young's sitting there doing Here and Now in a couple hours, it's going to sound like she's sitting across your kitchen table from you having a cup of coffee. If you're listening to your hip-hop radio station, your rock and roll radio station, it's going to sound like they're sitting on your shoulder yelling in your ear. And that's how the studio space is designed. And some of the aspects of this room that make that design are this combination of soft walls, which you guys have behind you, and these hard walls over here. That kind of makes a sound of a room that's kind of like almost like a kitchen. And it sounds like there's kind of stuff in the room. It's not like we're in an empty factory space, so there's a lot of echoes. It sounds like you're in a room with some furniture, and there's a lot of different things that make that sound this way. One of the key aspects of that is the fact that there's no parallel surfaces whatsoever in this room. The ceiling is not parallel to the floor. That's because sound travels in waves, and when waves interact off parallel surfaces, they create what's called interference patterns. I don't know if you guys have learned about that in your physics class, but that's very much at play here in the studio. You can see that there's air coming through the pipes, but you can't hear it. It's because the pipes are wound through the ceiling at as many 90-degree angles they can fit up there to reduce the sound of air friction. So every aspect of this room is designed for acoustic perfection. It's mounted on coils which absorb vibrations from the outside world. So there's an explosion outside, it would be absorbed by these coils. That's why we walked up a ramp to get in here. You kind of see how it's a little bit of a room within a room over there on the corner window. This glass here weighs a ton, literally a ton. There's no air whatsoever between these glasses and those panes of glass either, because basically what sound is, or exactly what sound is vibrations that travel through air. So one aspect of the room that's not designed for acoustic perfection is this corner window over here. The clock on the wall looks like they have an underwriting break coming up in less than 5 minutes. You got to keep that conversation moving. There's calls coming in, so you're going to have different people from around the country, different age groups, different points of view, constantly coming in the flow of phone calls. The bottom line is there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and you don't hear it on the air. He's basically managing everything and managing it as well as possible. Watch out. Folks, conversation to take place, it looks like the people he's talking to are in these studios that are part of this ISDN network. It creates a high-resolution phone link. It makes it sound like they're sitting in the same room with them when they're not. They're either in Minnesota, or maybe they're in D.C. or California. But it sounds like they're in the same studio because of this high-resolution link on this ISDN network. I think this is the coolest piece of equipment over here. And here's some of the signal strength for the different... and we have a couple different receivers. And this is the signal strength for all of them. In case one goes down, we have backup. So you guys fans of Car Talk, or your parents fans of Car Talk?
Your large audience is affected in any way by what the station airs?
What do you mean affected? I'm not sure what you mean.
Like their individual opinions.
I think that people gain a tremendous amount of information from public radio, and they're able to form their own opinions. I don't think that the programming on this radio station in any way attempts to influence opinion. In fact, we do everything in our power to not influence opinion in one way or another. Basically, we're helping to form opinions by providing an excellent source of factual, unbiased information, and people are able to form their own opinions. So what we do is just provide the information. In no way is there an attempt by the staff here or the staff at public radio to have people vote Democrat, to have people vote Republican. Just the opposite. We want to make it so people are able to make their own decisions, but they have a lot of facts and information in order to make those decisions. Where does podcasting take place? Basically, the podcast is handled by our web team, which is at the end of this hall. And actually, we saw the gentleman who's responsible for that walk by a moment ago. Basically, we offer podcasts of On Point, I believe Here and Now, perhaps some of the newsroom programming as well. It's the web team who just makes that content available via digital format, and they struck the appropriate deal. And that was a big push about a year ago to make that sort of thing available.